Told you I was here.
You're listening to the number one source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. Hashtag Conservarican. With no fuck left to give.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Hit it.
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The Julio Rivera Show is on.
Welcome to the Thursday broadcast of the Julio Rivera Show. Hashtag Conservarican for this Thursday, May 26th. A historic day in the history of the Republican Party. Whether you like it or not, Donald Trump has now accumulated over 1,237 delegates, enough to win on a first ballot at the convention in Cleveland in July. We have a huge show, just huge this week. We have SABO, the noted political street artist. He's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about Politicon in LA, where I will be and where he'll be a featured presenter. He's going to have artwork there, and it's going to be huge. I can't wait to get to the left coast for the first time ever. The furthest west I've ever been is actually Las Vegas, if I am not mistaken. And we also have from the intersection, which is also on Lanterns Radio Network, Pastor Andrew Chavarilla, one of my favorite people in conservative politics. He's absolutely incredible, a great thinker, and a great dude. He's going to be on the show today. We've got Alex Melusky, who's going up against John McCain, because it is 2016 is the year to retire John McCain and send him home finally after a little. He's been around for a long time. I think he's done more than his fair share of service, if you want to call it that, to Congress, to the Senate rather, and it's time to move in a new direction. But my first guest, I'm so excited. I'm a big fan of hers. I've agreed with her on like 99% of things throughout my time here in political politics, conservative politics, and getting around the media and all that stuff. But I really do have a real admiration for her. She's a staunch conservative. She's done a lot of great things. She was in on the revolution in 2014 that gave us back the Senate. She was on that Tea Party Express bus stumping for conservatives. And everyone knows her because she's on cable news every day. She is literally a household name. She's been spoofed on Saturday Night Live. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But my buddy, Scottie Nell Hughes. How are you, Scottie?
I am doing fantastic, Julio, and I've got to tell you a funny story. I just came from a survival group of my 5 next-door neighbors. We were at our favorite Mexican restaurant, Rio Bravo, and I told my husband, I'm sorry, I cannot have another margarita tonight because I have an interview later on. He said, well, who do you have it with? I said, it's one of my favorite friends, and I said, it's the Conservarican, and he went, are you going on Julio's show tonight? I had no idea. My husband is a follower of yours on Facebook. I'm like, really? You know, you just never know. So you were quite popular within the Hughes household. Might I say that?
That's awesome. I'm a big fan of Chris myself, and he actually, I believe he is a delegate, right? So he will be in Cleveland.
He is a delegate. He is an official. He was elected by the people. It had nothing to do with the Trump campaign, which I am a Trump surrogate. So I wanted to make sure one thing that is big with my husband, we're exactly opposite, like most marriages in politics. We both agree on politics, but he is very black and white. And I am very more the, what I'd like to say, the house of cards type of politician, where I believe that you kind of have to go with the flow with things. He is like, nope, these are the rules. We stick by them. So he went and he was a 2-term commissioner here in Tennessee. He's now a SEC member, state executive committee member of the Republican Party. So when it came time to run, he did like Mr. Trump from the very beginning, some of the policies that he presented. He said, I'm going to run for delegate. So he was actually chosen by the people, like many of the Ted Cruz delegates, the Marco Rubio delegates. He was chosen by the people, had nothing to do with me or the campaign. And then the next step, he's also able to serve on the credentialing committee. And that was an elected position amongst the delegates, which had nothing to do with the Trump campaign or my influence. So it's been real interesting. Everybody always asks me as a Tea Partier, you must hate the GOP. I'm like, well, if that's true, then I'm sleeping with the enemy because my husband is the GOP. So we kind of have our own, but I just want to let you know that he was definitely a fan of yours, and we need to work on your language. I'll be honest with you, Julio, I was a little disappointed. You said the word huge. We've not said that in our house in a long time. It's actually huge. It's huge.
Yes, with a Y. Yes.
With a Y. It's not huge anymore. We now have a whole dictionary after Mr. Trump is now, and now that he's officially he won't be official until we get through Cleveland. But now that he is the candidate, we now have a whole new term, a whole new dictionary that we in the Republican Party have to start using. And huge is at the very beginning. But that's kind of a New Yorker thing I've kind of learned.
Yeah, that's actually like if you flip the alphabet now, the Y goes first, and I guess the first word in the alphabet is huge. I actually wanted to ask you because you are, and I don't think you get enough credit for this. You're very intelligent. You were a magna cum laude graduate from the University of Tennessee, correct?
Very good. Wait to stalk on Facebook. I'm very impressed.
Exactly.
Actually.
No, but the reason I bring this up is because you were spoofed on Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live has a long history of making conservative women out to be less than intelligent. And although I thought that, their spoof of you was kind of, it was funny because you have to, I was actually kind of like, when I was a kid, we used to always, to go to New York to NBC Studios. That was our 8th grade field trip. And my sister is a stand-up comic, and I actually dabbled a little bit in comedy too. And that was something that I always kind of like, I always loved Saturday Night Live until I became a conservative, which is like that with a lot of media things. I don't know if you feel that way too, but sometimes it's hard to listen to music. It's hard to, like Bruce Springsteen with the whole bathroom thing in North Carolina. Like, I'm from New Jersey. We grew up on Bruce Springsteen, and we grew up watching Saturday Night Live, but the more you become a conservative, the harder it becomes to kind of deal with that. But how do you feel about what they've done to you, the way that they've portrayed Sarah Palin? How does that, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, whenever they do anything within the media, whether it's a comedy sketch like SNL or just even on the news, they're never going to portray conservative women in the right light, exactly, or give them the same standards that they give to the Democrat women. I mean, that's just a given. It's going to be. So first of all, I'd like to say it's a huge honor to have Cicely Strong play me on Saturday Night Live. I absolutely adored it, actually. And there's been some very funny lines. In fact, my mother still actually quotes me the lines from the skit, even 2 months later. So from that perspective, yes, that is an extreme honor. However, one of my big things was, I wanted to sit there and say, yes, I believe that we do need to laugh more, especially on the Republican Party. There's a lot to laugh at right now. And that's one of the reasons why we've lost the last 2 election cycles is we haven't been able to be relatable to the people. And comedy and pop culture is the best way to do it. Hence why Barack Obama had Beyonce doing her booty shake for votes. And I exactly think that, at least 500,000 votes were won by Beyonce that night when she wore that phenomenal dress. Yeah. But on to more serious subjects here. So when they did it, I knew that I wanted to sit there and I wanted to say, yes, it was funny, it was hilarious. But I also did not want to sit there. So many times Republican women, because we are portrayed this way, present this very strong appeal. And so then it becomes almost a game by the liberal left. We are going to throw everything, and it just gets worse. It escalates. They want to break a good conservative female. And so I knew, listen, if I show them that, yes, I appreciate it, I thought it was funny and respectful, but at the same time, I am human. So therefore, I do have a little bit of weakness. So I made the comment, yes, it was great. But when my daughter looked at me and said, Mom, why are they making fun of you why are they laughing at you and making you look out to be stupid? I knew that I sat there and interjected to any of them if they had a soul and a heart, which obviously some of them had to have, when they realized that, wait a minute, I'm also a mom. I am also a wife. I'm also a PTO member. I'm someone that they know that they would not continue to attack me. And that's what they've done to Ann Coulter, Michelle Malkin, and Sarah Palin. I did not want to become that person of the 2016 campaign. So I gave them that human element. And so I showed them not weakness, but I showed them that I'm just like them. And so when I did that, I think that actually was able to tame them. And you saw, I actually got a call that NBC got a lot of pushback because I was not told about that sketch coming. I was not warned. I was not said, hey, by the way, you might not want to go to bed early. But I think so many times we in the Republican Party, because we have to be so strong because of the attacks that come against us, both males and females. But especially as women, we have to look like we're hardcore and strong, that we don't have, and emotion from us is seen as weakness. I wanted to be able to take this platform and show, no, we are just like everybody else. That was one of my big things, is that I went into a group of women once, and they started talking about, they were sharing meatloaf recipes. They were showing about, things to keep their marriage hot, 10 years later. They were talking about problems their children were having. And I brought up, hey, guys, can you believe how our senator voted on Obamacare? And they looked at me like I had just said the most crude, vile, malicious thing ever. Like I was the one with leprosy, and they didn't talk to me for the rest of that entire time. And I realized at that point that we had given politics and being engaged a very bad stigma, especially amongst women, where they're like, no, we don't, that's just too controversial to talk about. We can talk about 50 Shades of Grey, but we can't talk about politics. And I realized we had done something very wrong within the political spectrum on both sides, but especially the Republican Party. I live in a very red state. So that's been my whole goal, is to try to, even if I don't agree with you, and you and I have had our conversations about presidential candidates, I at least want us to engage others so that we get rid of that stigma that talking about politics is just for those in Washington, D.C., because that's how we get into the mess that we're in today.
Exactly, yes, because people are not informed. They have no idea what the issues are. They send people to D.C., and then they don't keep an eye on them when they're there. Now, let me ask you a question. As far as now, within the Republican Party, I guess there is a splinter there, where there are some people that are not, and they're even passionately against your candidate. And I guess he's the Republican candidate now, so to a certain extent, he's the Republican candidate, so we kind of all have to accept that. How do you think, because Mitt Romney didn't have a Stop Mitt movement, there wasn't a Stop John McCain movement. How do you think this is going to play out? What do you think that Mr. Trump can do to try to win some of those people that he's lost over the last year?
Well, you have to look at the numbers of it. And this is what people have to realize. And this is one of the reasons why, because I've been a huge friend of Senator Cruz's since the day he got elected. I helped him in Texas get elected very much. And then obviously in the presidential election, I spoke on his behalf as well as Donald Trump's for the majority of the fall. And what you have to realize is when it came down to when I actually had to come down to picking between the two candidates, why I went with Mr. Trump was because of one thing. While people go, well, he was a liberal in the past, and they go and they take all that aside. What I've learned is that when you look at, and the same thing, they've brought it up right now with all the scandals of Bill Clinton. You know what? Bill Clinton was impeached because of very bad things he did with an underage girl in the Oval Office. And yet he had the highest approval rating when he got out of office. Why was that? Well, it was because our economy and the American people were finally feeling some sort of security in providing for themselves and the safety of their family. They felt that. Now, I actually believe that's because of Newt Gingrich and his Republican Congress.
Of course, yes, they did rein in, yeah.
Right, but Democrats like to say that was completely Bill Clinton. So when it comes down to it, and this is the point, that when it comes down to push come to shove, it's all about security. It's all about actually believing in who's going to protect your family and who's going to allow you to be able to provide for your family. And Hillary Clinton will not do that. And so for all of my conservatives that are listening right now that are saying, you know what, I just can't vote for Donald Trump. Guess what? If you are pro-life and you don't think Donald Trump is pro-life, I guarantee you have a 100% better chance of getting a pro-life judge, which is the only thing, honestly, that a president, an executive office can do regarding pro-life at this point, is appoint a pro-life judge, than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton will, and she's sworn to it, she will literally appoint the most pro-choice, pro-abortion. I mean, if she even allows the baby to live a day, and up until the day that they're born. And then she'd probably.
I think they're going to extend it to like the day before kindergarten at some point.
I feel like at that point so you have to look at, and I realize that when you're dealing with the machine known as, the Democrats were allowed to elect a first-time senator, which is just a phenomenal effort. They have a machine behind them. And if you add in the power of the Clintons, and by the Clintons, I mean Bill, but I guess you add in Hillary, you put those two together, we are dealing with such a catastrophic progressive chasm that we have to do everything to fight it. And I said 2 years ago when I wrote a book called Roar, I said, and I ended the book with the last line was, my whole goal of writing this book was to keep Hillary Clinton out of the Oval Office. That was my number one goal, because if you think, I thought Barack Obama might be the end of the world, nothing compared to what Hillary Clinton will do to us. So for all of those that want to just stay at home, or yes, we all have issues with things Mr. Trump has said in the past, even possibly things he said in the first. But you have to realize Hillary Clinton will destroy this country, not only for ourselves, but for future generations. And I promise you, Donald Trump at least Donald Trump respects the separation of branches and respects what our founding fathers put in the security guards. Hillary Clinton does not. If you think Obama's pen has gone out of ink writing executive orders, you haven't. Hillary Clinton will have a copy machine in her Oval Office with a stamp of her signature on executive orders that will take away the rights of conservatives first.
Wow. Well, you heard it there from Scottie Nell Hughes, the world famous surrogate for Donald Trump. And listen, Scottie, I want you to come back soon. I want you to come on as often as you like, but that was very insightful. And, we're just going to have to see what happens over the next couple of months, whether or not, Mr. Trump is going to be able to win over some of the people he turned off. Basically, at this point, the Stop Trump movement is going to lead us to have a term of Obama, and I'm starting to realize that myself. It's been a tough road because, I was so in for Cruz. But we'll see how it winds up playing out. But Scottie, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was such a pleasure to have you. God bless and keep doing good work.
Thank you for having me, Julio.
No problem. On the other side of the break, we've got Andrew Chavarilla. Don't go anywhere.
Find the Lanterns Radio Network on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes.
They can intercept this transmission at any time, so I'll be brief. The fight is here. The time is now. Go behind enemy lines.
Player FM, YouTube, and other social media by searching keyword Lanterns Buzz or Lanterns Radio Network.
Politics got you down? Is your team in last place? Is your significant other sleeping with your neighbor? Well, cheer up. The Julio Rivera Show is on. Deal with your problems afterwards.
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Julio Rivera Show is on.
Yeah, and we're back here on a wild Thursday, May 26th. My name is Julio Rivera. You're listening to the Julio Rivera Show, and we just had Scottie Nell Hughes, one of my absolute favorite people in politics. We were lucky enough to have her, and joining me now, we have one of my other favorite people in politics, Mr. Andrew Chavarilla, host of The Intersection, which is up for a podcast award. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about that, Andrew?
Well, first of all, let me say thanks for having me on the show, bro.
Oh, yeah, anytime, brother.
Nah, man, we appreciate you having me on the show. Yeah, so we are up for a 2016 podcast award under the People's Choice nomination, and we are in the category of religion and spirituality. We are one of the most listened to faith-based political talk radio shows in the United States of America, which is truly humbling. It's truly amazing. And
yeah, that's great stuff that you do, man. And you do have a great viewership or listenership. I want to ask you, because You are a true social conservative. You
Right.
are and you are a pastor as well, correct?
Right. Yep.
Yes. And how do you feel the direction of the party is going now with someone who is perceived, although he's stating now that he is pro-life, although he's had varying, opinions on that in the past. How do you feel the direction of the party is going? How worried are you in general that, social conservatives aren't being served in D.C.?
Well, let me just say it this way: conservatives aren't being served in D.C. anymore. It's not even just social conservatives, but when you look at at tax plans across the board for those that are candidates right now in the presidential nomination, aside from a few within the Libertarian Party, but when you look at tax plans in general from the Republican platform and the Democratic platform, man, taxation is overburdening. So fiscal responsibility is even, how can you even tout fiscal responsibility when we are still racking up trillions of dollars in debt and we have both the House and the Senate? So I would say conservatives in general are not being catered to. But you asked how I feel about the direction of the party, and I feel the direction of the party is moving in a direction that is no longer the party of conservatism. It is no longer the party. It's no longer the party for those social issues that you're asking about. We have compromised on so many different aspects of this platform, and I think it was evident throughout the presidential cycle. First of all, you bring up Donald Trump and you bring up that he's been pro-life and that he is pro-choice and that he identifies more with Democrats when it comes to that. And in more recent aspects, saying Planned Parenthood does good work. And that just shows, in my opinion, political ignorance because and it shows blindness. It shows social blindness because the work that he's talking about Planned Parenthood doing, Planned Parenthood doesn't do. They outsource all that stuff. So anyway, when conservatives can turn a blind eye to things like that, you can really see the direction of the party, or when so-called conservatives, can take a blind eye to that and just kind of brush it under the rug and say, well, he's saying he's pro-life now. I tie it back, and again, like you said, I'm a full-time minister. I have a church down here in Texas, and one of the things that I tell people when it just comes to Christians in general, show me your fruits and I'll show you your faith. And show me your fruit, show me what it is. And if I inspect Donald Trump's fruit, I'm sorry, he is not a social conservative at all.
Let me ask you, last summer, and we've seen a lot of egregious judicial activism on a number of things, but in particular, the decision on marriage last summer, which kind of I think is unconstitutional based on our 10th Amendment and whatnot. Do you think that this is all part of as far as Barack Obama's fundamental transformation of America? If we go down this path now, and let's say Hillary Clinton wins, are we going to lose our moral fiber as a nation?
So when it comes to marriage, here's the thing, and I have a different view when it comes to the government and marriage than probably most people. I don't believe that heterosexual couples should have to go through the government licensing process to be married. Show me George Washington's marriage license. It's non-existent. Let me just tell people what government is in the marriage business for one reason and one reason alone. Taxation, money. It's another tax that they can impose upon the people. And just think about it. For every heterosexual couple that's been married, now you open the gates to homosexual couples to get married. It's just more money. That's the way that
you think that's what it is? It's just a money grab. It's just like an additional tax. Now we're going to allow them to do it.
Yeah, wow. I would rather me personally. I'd rather the government be out of marriage altogether. I have a book that's coming out this fall. It's called "The Pulpit is Responsible for It." And here's the thing, and I go back and I talk about what I talk about is Charles Finney. He was a cleric during the American Revolution, and he talks about if the church becomes degenerate and worldly, the pulpit is to blame. But then he goes on and he says, if Satan rules in our halls of legislation, the pulpit is to blame. And really and truly, the reason is because preachers and pastors all across our nation quit preaching about what marriage is. We got so wrapped up in telling people, and here's the thing, and I'm not desensitizing the issue, okay? I sympathize and I empathize. I come from a single parent home. My mom was a single mom. My parents got a divorce when I was 14. I understand the trauma of divorce, but we are so focused as a culture on the divorce aspect of things that we no longer focus on the marriage aspect of things. So we don't have a godly standard for a home at all. So it's easy for the government to go in and say, well, this is what the home should look like. Two men can cohabitate and have a home and have a marriage because the home can look that way. Why? Because preachers and pastors aren't talking about what the home is supposed to look like. Now, here's the thing, though, and here's what I will say. If a gay couple, male and two guys or two females, whatever, if they can find a preacher or a pastor, a priest or cleric or whatever that will perform their marriage ceremony, they will answer to God before that. And so will that priest or that pastor or whoever. They will give an answer to God before that. Not me, not anybody else. They will give an answer. The government won't. Well, the government will answer for it from the position that they have taken on it. But if it's up to me and my view of government doesn't have any responsibility in the marriage business at all whatsoever.
I do actually agree with that. You know what? It's funny is in terms of holy matrimony. This is my solution to it. And I don't know, and you can give me feedback on this. What I think is what they should do is they should just create like what civil unions are, but expanded, transferable civil unions that are recognized nationally. Just like with all the protections that marriage has for everyone. Because the institution of marriage, which is a Judeo-Christian institution, and I believe it's something that you should do through the church and it should be recognized by God. So if for legal purposes, let's say you're not a Christian or you're gay or whatever, that way that solves the issue of the supposed inequality. That way it's equal for everyone. Now, if you want to get married in a church, what you would have to do then is go to that church and go through whatever. I know, like the church that I grew up in, which was a Pentecostal church. If you were going to get married at that church, you would have to go. You would have to meet with the minister, and then they would speak to you, and you would almost kind of go through like a little bit of like a marriage program, sort of. So that they let you understand what marriage means. Yeah, whatever is required by the church. And I think that would actually bring more people back to the church in order to get married. I think they would take it more seriously. Now people just get married at a church and it becomes almost like a monetary transaction.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what I'm going to like. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but you're saying something. You're saying something that's very important. It's very relevant, and I want your listeners to understand this because I look at things from a political perspective, but also from a pastoral perspective or a ministerial perspective. For those that would prefer me to use that term,
that's a 50-cent word there, Andrew.
So it is right. So I look at it from both perspectives, and here's the thing: if you did away, somebody asked me, well, the government should be around for things like Medicare, Medicaid, and for senior care. No, bullcrap. They don't need to be doing that. That's the church's responsibility. James says pure and undefiled religion is this, to take care of the widows and the orphans. That's the church's responsibility, not the government's. It doesn't say that it's the government's responsibility to take care of the elderly in the Constitution either, whether we like it or not. Okay? But what happens if you take away those government subsidized programs? What happens if you take away welfare and things like that? All of these things. What happens if you take away marriage licensing and all of these things that are government revenue? Okay, you take away all of these things, guess where people have to go back for the help? They have to go back to the churches for the help. It flips the script back on individual liberty and personal responsibility.
Awesome. That's a great point.
That's the nation that our founders intended. You get rid of welfare, who has to take care of people? That means that churches have to quit being lazy, step up and open a food pantry in their church for people that are hungry. That means that churches actually have to open up their pocketbooks and start paying for people to stay in a hotel if they got evicted from their home and they're knocking on the preacher's door in the middle of the night. That means that we have the responsibility, if we see the hungry, to feed them, if we see the naked, to clothe them, if we see the thirsty, to give them to drink. It's not the government's job. That is our job as good human beings.
Exactly. I think that taxation and taking 1 penny more than is absolutely necessary is obviously theft. And I think that people need to learn to take care of each other. We need to go back to that kind of communal sort of way where we take care of our own. The church is instrumental in that, obviously. And it's true. I mean, we've gone away. Like when I was a kid, it just seemed like we were more of a Christian nation. Under God wasn't a big issue. Mm-hmm. Prayer in public wasn't a big issue. It was almost like if you weren't a Christian, you were the one that was in the minority. Now it's like, whenever I go out and I eat at a restaurant, before I eat my food, I will, say, a quick prayer and thank you to God. And sometimes I get people that look at me, and it's funny too, because I remember, being younger and growing up, that was a normal thing. Like people would say, families would hold hands around, whether it was in a diner at a table, and they would, say their grace or whatever the case may be. But it's almost gotten to the point where, they're shaming, or they're attempting to shame. They can't shame me, but they're attempting to shame people, Christians, into kind of, into hiding their religion.
Good luck approaching me to try to get me to hide my faith.
Exactly. I know. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing is we as a nation have become desensitized. And here's the reason that we've become desensitized to faith and to religion in general. Okay. And people have kind of bought into this mentality and stuff. The Constitution says that we have a freedom of religion. But people have bought into this mess that the Constitution says we have a freedom from religion. That's not the way that our founders saw it. That's not the way that, and I could sit here and I can talk about this all day long. I can go from the most skeptic, Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, to the most sincere in their faith, like George Washington and John Quincy Adams. They viewed government, they viewed our nation as a nation that was free to worship God. And here's where we missed the key, Julio. Here's where it happened. Okay. Our Declaration of Independence starts with a phrase that says that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among those, life, liberty, and what?
The pursuit of happiness.
The pursuit of happiness. Here's where we lost this in translation. Okay. The pursuit of happiness doesn't mean you can go and do whatever the flip you want to do. Okay. Doesn't mean that. That's not what it means. Do whatever makes you happy, eat, drink, and be merry. The pursuit of happiness, the definition of the word happiness during the 1700s, it's the evolution of words, right? Okay. So we've had words going on, like the word gay, for instance. Gay meant something totally different 50 years ago than what it means now. Okay. The word happiness in the 1700s, as would have been defined by our founders, was defined as doing that which is right before God and your fellow man. That was the definition of happiness during the 1700s. So when we penned our Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it was happiness. Do whatever you want to do so long as it is right before God and right before our fellow man.
Wow. And that's actually, you're absolutely 100% right. They were absolutely 100% right in the direction that our country is going. Mm-hmm. Right now, I am very worried. We're really losing our moral standards. And You know what? Every great empire, whenever they crumble, it has a lot to do with a lack of morality. And I think it's important that you get your message out there. Tell people about the where they can go vote for the intersection now.
Cool. So if you go to podcastawards.com on starting Sunday, podcastawards.com, and you got to select, I need you guys to select two shows, not only the intersection, we're in the religion and spirituality category, but select the intersection and then go over to the news and politics section and select behind enemy lines. You can only vote once per day per computer. So go to podcastawards.com and there's going to be a link on our new website. It's intersectionradio.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. I look forward to having you on
Thank you,
again. You're a part of the Lanterns Network, and we're Lanterns all the way here, the Julio Rivera Show and the Intersection. On the other side of the break, we've got John McCain's primary opponent, Alex Melusky. Don't go anywhere.
Politics got you down? Is your team in last place? Is your significant other sleeping with your neighbor? Well, cheer up. The Julio Rivera Show is on. Deal with your problems afterwards.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
All right, bro.
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The Julio Rivera Show is on.
Yeah, I got the fastest breaks in the business. 40 seconds, clean and easy. And we're back, and we got a real treat for you. This is a gentleman that I had the pleasure of meeting last year at Value Voters Summit for the first time. I actually interviewed him then, and had the opportunity to do so again at CPAC. If you didn't listen to those broadcasts or read those interviews, I'm going to give him an opportunity to introduce himself and what he's all about. He's in the Arizona Senate primary for the Republican the Republican seat that's currently held by John McCain for the past 6,000 years. And he's actually a really bright guy with some really great ideas. Everyone, welcome Alexander Melusky. How are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing great, Julio. Thanks again for having me back on. I really do appreciate the chance to chat with you and all your listeners.
No problem. It's a pleasure to have you. You've got some great ideas. We kind of went through that before, but I actually, the first thing I actually wanted to touch on, we had during the presidential primary, everybody submitted their tax plans and whatnot. Ted Cruz had a flat tax. Donald Trump had a tax plan that had 3 brackets, which he decided to change after 80% of the primaries were done. What is your idea regarding taxation? Because this is something that if you're not aware or know about the fair tax movement, why don't you explain that a little bit to the listeners?
Absolutely. I support a tax bill that's before Congress and the Senate right now. It's H.R. 25 in the House, S-155 in the Senate. And simply put, folks, it is a consumption tax. It's a sales tax, one time only, at the cash register on new goods and services only. And the thing I love about this tax, just aside from it makes it so much easier, get rid of tax returns and everything else, is that it was our founders' idea of the ideal tax if we were to tax the people.
And let me ask you, too, it was a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, you came out with a really powerful ad attacking John McCain regarding his position on the refugees. He obviously has a stance that I don't feel is going to keep America safe if he's to have his way. How would you deal with issues like immigration, refugees, our national sovereignty? What would Alex Melusky push for in the Senate?
Well, John McCain hasn't really been too friendly with any of us when it comes in regards to the refugees and it comes in regards to immigration. I've got to tell you something really interesting. I was in a town called Prescott, Arizona, most of the day yesterday, and I was on the town square, and I was chatting with people trying to generate support, and I only found one person that would even comment to say that, oh, no, I support John McCain. It was a refugee from Iraq who said John McCain's good. He gave me a job. So, no, when it comes to refugees, listen, there's no rule on the book that says we have to take refugees. What I do think we have to do as good, humane Christians and good, humane people, regardless if we're Christian or not, is to keep an eye and make sure that, if there is some sort of atrocity going on in the world, where there is some great deed that is going on that we need to, potentially protect fellow human beings, is to keep an eye on them. But that also does not mean that we need to put our own citizens in harm's way. John McCain said he can vet them. He can't. He absolutely can't. I mean, Julio, if I offered you a bowl of M&Ms and said, hey, Julio, would you like some M&Ms? Just one morning, though, one of those M&Ms is cyanide-laced, and you'll die when you eat it. Mm-hmm. Well, of course you're not going to take an M&M.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. No, I'm saying that's exactly what the issue is. We had James Comey, the FBI director, told Barack Obama in very clear terms that there's no possible way to vet these people. They're displaced from different regions. I mean, not all of them that are Syrian refugees are originating from Syria. They've been displaced because, due to the rise of ISIS has taken control of a lot of the infrastructure in the regions that they're at. So they can actually create paperwork for people if they wanted to. And I think that's probably how they've gotten a lot of these young, strong men that should be sitting there fighting for their country instead of, wreaking havoc in Europe.
And you make a very great point there. And I know you like one thing about me is I'm very logical, and I do have solutions to problems. Here's what we should have been doing all along. Jordan, just to the east of Israel, overall a good neighbor to Israel, okay? They're not warring, they're not fighting, and a strong Jordan keeps Israel's eastern border pretty much, safe. Israel doesn't have to worry about defending that side of their borders. So Jordan has taken in about 1 million of these Syrian refugees. And Jordan's a small country of about 6 million. And they're a poor country. Wouldn't it have been a lot smarter for us to maybe find a coalition, a good team of nations that would give a little bit of humanitarian aid to Jordan so that their coffers wouldn't be so stressed that they were in such a situation where it would be easier for ISIS to go in and take them, over and cause them great grief. Because think about it. If you had if you're being displaced, Julio, say that all of a sudden somebody came to you and you were under attack and you had to leave your home, would you really want to go halfway across the world, or would you rather maybe, deal with it and go to Connecticut for, a month and regroup and then come back and fight for your state?
Exactly. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, it absolutely makes perfect sense. And it's almost, you could almost broaden that in a sense with, all the crime that's going on near the border with all the drugs. People need to, those police forces. There's police forces in Mexico that are like resigning in mass because they don't want to deal with the cartels. But it's not our problem either. Let me ask you a question. What is your solution to the illegal immigration issue that we're suffering from currently?
It's pretty basic. And almost every single solution to any kind of problem like this, you can hit it on an economic, a moral, and just a logistical easy solution, but for many different reasons. But the immigration issue we have in our country is not necessarily that people are breaking the law. It's that we're not enforcing our laws on the books. Very simply put, if we had just enforced the rule of law here in the United States of America and we're not letting people come through the door, unchecked, then we wouldn't have the problem we do now. What we do is, it's completely different than when my ancestors came through this country over 100 years ago. They came, they received only one thing when they came to America. They received the protection of the United States under the flag. But everything else they did, such as working hard, not breaking the law, learning the language, assimilating in a sense that they were becoming part of this country and helping it grow, they helped better themselves. They bettered everybody around them and made our country stronger.
Yeah, and I can almost even add to that, like the one thing that they received when they came here was opportunity, where now people were coming here looking to receive entitlement instead of the opportunity to work hard.
And you know what? In states like Arizona, our state budget, about 20% of it goes right to entitlements to people who are here illegally. It does nobody any good. It doesn't do the illegals any good. I mean, the bottom line is we do need to cut off all entitlements because, listen, for people that are here illegally, because if you're here illegally, you're breaking the law. There's so many simple little fixes that could be put in place that are better for everybody, better for the American citizens, and better for all immigrants trying to come into America.
Yeah,
play
and
by
it's
the rules.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said play by the rules. You know it.
Exactly. It's like the liberal doctrine. Let's not enforce the laws on the books. Let's make it seem like those laws don't work. And then let's just tear those up and come up with whatever legislation that we want to that fits their agenda. Because ultimately, I think what they're looking to do is just expand their voter base. I mean, it's very transparent. You got Jerry Brown in the state of California making it possible to renew or register to vote with driver's licenses. And then they're giving illegals the opportunity to get driver's licenses. So what they're doing is they're just, all those millions of people that are in California, they've just created a new voting block of millions of illegal immigrants that are going to vote Democrat.
It's just a straight up deterioration of our Constitution, of equal protection under the law to the American citizenry. We are a very generous nation. There's no reason why we need to do this where we're treating our citizenry not as well as we're treating people that are coming here unwelcomed or not following the process. Mm-hmm. I just sometimes my head just starts wrapping around it, and I say, why? And for all of your listeners out there, most of you already get this, but I asked my campaign manager once I started running, and this is something very important I want to share. I'm running for the first time ever for a political position. So, there's a guy like Ted Cruz who's currently serving in his first ever elected political position. Guys like Donald Trump who are currently running for the first time ever. I think we get it more than most other people. But what I got after being in this race for just a few months was something was very wrong with what was going on in Washington. And I asked my campaign manager, Craig, who you know, I said, Craig, what is it? Are they inept or are they corrupt? The answer was yes.
It's true. I mean, it's a combination of both. And unfortunately, the taxpayers are on the hook for all of their mistakes. We have to live under this system that they've created, which is really a soup sandwich at this point. We're not honoring the Constitution. Let me ask you a question here. The transgender bathroom issue. I see this as a total attack on the First Amendment in the state of New York. They've instituted these misgendering laws where you could be held to a tort up to, I think, like $25,000 or up to I think actually it can go by severity up to even more for misgendering someone. I mean, what happened to the good old days where we could just say what we wanted to say and the First Amendment was protected? I mean, this is ridiculous. In the direction that the country is going in now, socially, we've never really touched on social conservatism or wherever. What's your position on the bathrooms, gay marriage, some of those types of social issues that the left always wants to attack conservatives for?
The gender bathroom thing just you know what? If you have a private restaurant or a private place and you want to do that, that's fine. You know what? I just figure we should just you shouldn't have to offer more bathrooms in a public place necessarily. I think it's amazing that they even try to do that. I think it should be, you're born one way or you're not, If you want to dress a different way and be a different way, I'm not going to be mean to you. I'm not going to be cruel to you, but I do have a very major problem with the loopholes that this opens up once again for, say, like a sicko. I mean, there's been known stories of men being in women's bathrooms already where they're trying to peek through, the doors. I mean, I don't want to be at a restaurant or at a place and have my daughter go into the bathroom and then see some guy walk in after her. It's not going to. I don't like it. I don't like our fellows tell us what we need to do or have to do. I think it's a power grab. It's a complete power grab. Barack Obama is spending time dictating where people need to go to the bathroom when he should be spending more time protecting our men and women overseas in uniform.
Absolutely, and I agree with that 150%. The one thing I would say is that if you force businesses, think about the economic hit that you'll take if you have to actually, plumbing ain't cheap. Contractors aren't cheap. If you have to put an extra bathroom for people, that's just absolutely freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
It's an economic burden, and we should not have to. Technically, I don't think you have to offer a men's and a woman's bathroom when you're in a say like a gas station or something. I think what we're going to end up having is we're going to have, just bathrooms just go to, locked, one stall.
Yeah,
go
exactly.
Back to that.
Yeah, I've gone to clubs actually in the city where they just have multiple stalls set up, and it's unisex because you can lock it and it's only one person. Listen, Alex, why don't you tell everyone who is listening in that are intrigued by you, that may want to help, donate, volunteer, where can they reach you on the internet?
Well, if you want to reach the only candidate that is absolutely pro-life, that has not supported Obama's stimulus package or taken Obama's stimulus package, yeah, I've got a whole nother show for you, Julio.
Yeah, you'll be back. I'll definitely want to have you back.
Yeah, well, there's some great stuff breaking in our race, but not for the conservatives unless you support me. But John McCain and Ward, oh boy, they're getting a mistake there. Melusky.com is the site. MELUSKEY.com, and I do need your support, folks.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on, Alex. God bless and good luck, and we look forward to talking to you soon. On the other side of the break, we've got the controversial SABO.
Politics got you down? Is your team in last place? Is your significant other sleeping with your neighbor? Well, cheer up. The Julio Rivera Show is on. Deal with your problems afterwards.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Julio Rivera Show is on.
Yeah, and we're back off of the break. It is Thursday, May 26, 2016, and we are now joined by political street artist and my buddy, one of my favorite people in politics as well. You know what? I say that, it sounds like I'm saying that about everybody, but this guy, and everybody who's been on tonight, and everybody, I really do love everybody who's been on tonight, but this guy here is one of the real rebels of the conservative movement. He's brought a lot of people into the tent. He's shown that conservatism can be cool, and I just happen to love this guy. And we're going to be at Politicon. He's going to actually have a great... why don't you tell us yourself, Sabo? Tell us what's going on.
Well, this is the second Politicon. This time it's in Pasadena. Mm-hmm. And for some strange reason, these liberals have given me the opportunity to show my stuff. Right next to... Shepard Ferry and what's the other guy, Robbie Connell. I get, and it's just it's kind of cool that they would do that, because normally they don't give you a platform to speak.
Yeah, well, you have a lot to say. You've created some very powerful imagery over the years. The Wendy Davis abortion Barbie. Wendy Davis is actually going to be there. I was looking at the list of people who are actually going to be there. And I found that kind of hilarious. That was actually one of the stronger pieces, me being such a staunch pro-life conservative. That piece in particular meant a lot to me. But why don't you tell us about the piece that you'll actually be bringing to Politicon?
Well, I'm going to be doing quite a few pieces. I'm kind of surprised at how much they rely on me. I must be doing a good 7 pieces or something. But
oh, wow.
The one that I love the most is this 5-foot turd for a Bernie free shit sculpture. Mm-hmm. And I should start working on that this weekend. And I've got a sculptor in mind that's going to help me out with that, because I've never carved anything out, and time is kind of short. I'm going to try to apply as much of the work on my own as possible. But all I know is I want to make sure it's done and ready to go for the show, and it should be pretty funny.
Okay, now you were on. We've been both very strong supporters of Ted Cruz throughout this process. How did you take the news today? And I mean, it was kind of an eventuality that he was going to get to the number, but how do you feel, or what do you have to say as far as your position right now? Obviously with the presumptive nominee that we've have to deal with, unfortunately.
I don't even know how to word it, man. It's a nightmare. I can't believe that we did this to the country. I can't believe after 7.5 years of Obama and complaining about him that we actually went and nominated this ass clown. And I know the people that did it because a lot of them followed my work, and I know how they think, and it blows me away. It blows me away that they actually did this. And if Trump winds up winning, it's going to be a kegger party for like the first year and a half, 2 years, and Lord only knows what's going to happen the next 2 years. If he loses, people are going to blame people like me for not supporting him. And I don't know what to say, man. This is Twilight Zone territory. What can you say?
Yeah, it really is a rock and a hard place because, I mean, I look at it like this, right? John McCain didn't have the support of the conservative base, nor did Mitt Romney, and they lost. Donald Trump, there's some of the conservatives actually do support Trump, amazingly, but I think there's the far majority of true constitutional conservatives do not. And the one thing with Donald Trump versus, and I mentioned this earlier with Scottie, there's a pronounced stop Trump movement where there was not there was more indifference to Romney and McCain than there is outright a movement to, prevent him from being president. But the fact of the matter is, you wind up with Hillary Clinton. That's what's going to happen. I mean, a third party candidate isn't going to parachute in. Gary Johnson isn't going to freaking win. Neither is Austin Peterson's not going to win. It's Hillary or Trump. So it really is. It's one of the strangest positions I think I've ever felt. The one thing I tell people is, like, I've never felt more in my life. And I'm not a perfect person. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I made a lot of bad decisions. But the one time in my life that I ever really felt like I was doing the right thing, and I felt like I was doing, like being a good person, and like God would smile upon me, was trying to help Senator Cruz to the presidency. And I don't want to get it all into whatever, like he's obviously he's not a theocrat or anything like that, and he wouldn't rule that way. But I think that he was really the best possible option that we could have had. And you're right, we pissed it away, and it's shocking. The best guy, and we couldn't, he was there, and we blew it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's almost like someone is on their knees praying to God for 7+ years. Dear Lord, deliver me this. Dear Lord, deliver me this. And the Lord gives them what they asked for, exactly what they asked for. And then they see this shiny piece of candy on the hill, and they're like, "Fuck you, God! I want that piece of candy instead." Mm-hmm. And you just stand there, you're dumbfounded. But I've experienced so much. I don't want to call it tragedy, but I mean, I've experienced enough stupidity around me that nothing surprises me. Now, very little surprises me. So here we are, man. Just ride the wave. I'm not going to support the guy. I'm not going to do anything to support him in any way. Mm-hmm. So whatever. I mean, what are you going to do at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it was an eventuality. I mean, I personally would have liked to have seen Cruz continue to campaign until just till the last second. But I mean, whatever. It is what it is at this point, and this is what we have. I'd like to see if that we do, because one way or the other we may get if we have Hillary, we're definitely going to get a disaster. If we get Donald Trump, I think we're going to get a disaster, but he is malleable in a certain sense. So if he does surround himself with the right people, maybe there's a chance that it's not a total train wreck. But maybe this gives birth to either a third-party movement for 2020, or it really galvanizes in people's minds that, wow, we had Senator Cruz. Because the one thing that people don't realize is Senator Cruz's profile has been raised. He finished second, and he finished a strong second with a passionate base of supporters. So I think that, let's say Donald Trump doesn't follow through on his promises and there's backlash, who's going to be the guy on the Senate floor holding him accountable? Senator Cruz. So, and if I look at it like this, if Donald Trump has, let's say his presidency is a shit show, which it may very well be. If it is, do you think, he's going to want to even run for a second term? He might be a one and done in a sense, right?
You would think, and you're thinking like a sensible person. If Trump blows it out of his ass, assuming he gets elected, or if he doesn't get elected at all, we're going to jump on the Cruz wagon. We're going to push really hard. We're going to campaign really hard. Everything's going to look great. And then Sylvester Stallone's going to run. And then everyone's going to jump on the Rocky Rocket. And it's just going to be shit show number 2. The media is going to love him because he's going to bring all kinds of ratings and clicks and likes. And we're just going to throw Cruz aside again because we're a bunch of fucking retards. And that's what we deserve. We deserve Hillary Clinton. We deserve pain. And I don't want to say I don't care. I just want to say that I'm very disappointed. And I don't expect anything from 2020. Although I'm going to do everything that I can to back Cruz again, and I'm going to pay close attention to him for the next 4 years, it's just not going to surprise me if Bruce Willis decides to run and everyone jumps on the fucking Die Hard Express. It's just, you can't even make this shit up.
Yeah, and then Dolph Lundgren will run in the primary, and then people will say that he wasn't born here, and then that'll be the big thing that you can't have the universal soldier, even though he's ready to kick ass internationally. I mean, this is ridiculous. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Every reality show star in America right now is gearing up for 2020.
I want to see Flavor Flav run, actually.
Why not?
Why not? Right? I think that would be a fun campaign.
I'm going for P. Diddy myself.
Well, you know what? P. Diddy is a smart businessman. P. Diddy has not filed bankruptcy. So P. Diddy P. Diddy actually, that's actually a good name there that you bring in there. And he's going to bring a lot of flow. So, I mean, I'm sure the press conferences, he might break out into and just, do a 16 bars of fire, at the inauguration. God knows what'll happen. And he can tap dance, which is even better.
And for the campaign posters, he'll do the Illuminati OK symbol for the zeros on the 2020.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got it down already. So
Jigger for VP, maybe? I don't know. God knows what we'll wind up with.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen because, I mean, we're going to have 4 more years to completely dumb down the American voter, as if we can get any dumber. And the smart ones in the media know that there's a ton of cash to be made. So why get someone that's going to fix shit? I mean, everyone likes to see fires. I mean, that's what we tune into. So, whatever, man. I'm just here. I'll be 50. I don't know how old I'm going to be at the time. I'll be in my early 50s, and I guess I'm just going to sit up on a hill and watch the fucking country burn.
No, God, that's like those big fires that you guys have in California. Those brush fires. It's going to be a big national one.
I'll be honest with you, man. If I was running for president, the first thing I would say is fuck New York. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to win New York. I'm not even going to try to win New York. I'm going to put a big handle on it, and I'm going to flush it into the Atlantic, and I'm going to do everything I can as a president to change that city. And you can hate me all the hell you want. And because, I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, what they did to Cruz, I mean, how they could embrace Trump the way that they did. We all know what Cruz meant by New York values. I mean, hell, your mayor is letting people piss on the street, and I mean, I couldn't walk a block without having someone offer me heroin. But I don't know, man.
It's crazy, man.
Crazy.
Well, you know what? I can't wait for the last weekend in June 25th and 26th at Politicon. I'll be broadcasting my show in some way from Politicon, I'm definitely going to have you on, and we're going to have a chance to hang out again. SABO, you're the man, and I can't wait to see what you're going to come up with for Politicon. I'm sure it's going to steal the show, and I can't wait to have my mind blown by it. Why don't you tell people where they can find your artwork online?
You can find it at unsavoryagents.com, and again, unsavoryagents.com. And I hope to be adding some things to it, and who knows what's going to happen in the near future. It's like, I have no idea. I guess we're just going to have to see. But Politicon's going to be fun, though.
All right, fantastic, man. I'll talk to you soon. You'll be back on definitely in Politicon. I want to try to get you on before for an update as far as what you're doing. I'm going to try to get some inside dirt as far as what we may see at Politicon. Thank you so much for joining me, SABO. Today's Thursday Super Show. Thank you to Scottie, Nell, Hughes, Trump surrogate, Andrew Melusky, running against John McCain in the Arizona Senate primary, and my man, Andrew Chavarilla. Vote for the intersection in the faith category for the Podcast Awards. My name is Julio Rivera. Catch us next week, Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Damn, you're pretty good at this.